You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru at. Tümer gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Yuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 175 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. Back again after a long hiatus. Sorry for the break. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation, but no real news, which, we kind of predicted. They had to sort out contracts for our coach first. We'll talk about that. They had to sort out, now they have to sort out returning players and, lock in maybe some salary cuts and stuff like that, But so I think this is the pre-transfer period as we've been getting lately. But I do, he's so quietly waiting over there. I have a special guest today, and he's one who everyone will recognize immediately. My favorite podcast co-host and yours, sorry Evran, Kaan Bayazit! How you doing, man? Oh!
I'm good. How are you, Sinan?
Yeah, he's ready to go.
Yeah, taking the big intro here. Have to build it up a little bit. Yeah, sorry, Evran, you don't get those types of intros, do you?
I was gonna say, I even have your theme song, which I guess I'll segue in to like when I'm introducing you, and then I'll cut it out. We'll make it work. It's great to have you back, sir. Been a while. We were just
Been too long.
joking about that before we started recording. What's new, man?
What I'm doing?
Well, yeah, I just like life, I guess. How you feeling? Summer, right? Summertime coming.
The school year is about to end, so the kid's gonna be home for 2 months. Luckily, the wife's gonna be home for 3 weeks as well. So we're gonna do some museums, some dinosaur museums, paleontology stuff. Like the kid likes all that stuff,
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? It's cool stuff.
I'm ready to go. Now that you mention it, I need to go too.
So looking forward to spending some time with the kid and with the missus, and things are opening up again. I'm getting my shot soon. I know you got your shot already.
I got mine maxed up.
Yeah, I'm getting mine in a week's time. Exactly. We're recording this on Wednesday, and I'm getting it next Wednesday. So
perfect.
Gonna get a Pfizer shot. So
nice, Pfizer gang. Yeah, I got my second Pfizer. In fact, I'm 2 weeks
nice.
through now.
How'd you take it?
Honestly, I did really well. I had no complications at all. The first one, it felt like somebody had punched me in my arm for about 4 days. But
4 weeks?
Just
4 weeks?
Days.
Okay.
No, like it was like nothing. And by when I say it felt like somebody punched me in the arm, like it felt like somebody had punched me in the arm. Really, like right after I got the shot, there was nothing. It was the easiest shot I've ever gotten. It was one of those like, oh, it's done, and I walked out. And so it was like literally like the next day, it felt like somebody had punched me, but like they'd punched me the day before. So it was just like sore, a little sore. But that was nothing. My wife had it a little harder after the first one because she apparently still had a bunch of antibodies left over from when we had the Rona.
Right.
Apparently that's a factor. But it just by getting it really bad, I just mean she was just like tired. She like napped for a couple of days. And even then, she's a real busybody, so she was working most of the time. So I mean, it didn't stop her.
Yeah, Kim got AstraZeneca, and so she got it like a while ago already because she works at the hospital. So she got it ages ago. Yeah. And she had a very sore arm for like a week or something. And I think the first shot she had a little bit of a fever, but the second shot she didn't really. But it depends depending on the vaccine, supposedly. Like
Exactly.
Pfizer, you're supposed to not really feel anything the first shot, but then the second shot you might get a little bit sick. And
And that was the thing with the second shot. I got real nervous because I had such an easy time with the first one.
Yeah.
I've heard that you might have it, and actually the second one was even easier. I didn't even have the arm pain so much this time. So.
I think the arm pain probably depends a little bit on whoever sets the shot, like
on the technique.
Possibly.
So my second one was a pro.
I know it's like that when when you have like blood, if you donate blood or something, or you just have like some blood, for blood sample taken. Like that always depends on who does it. Like if they are able to find a vein quickly and stuff like that, and that can really impact whether you have a blue arm the next day or not. So I don't know, maybe it's the same way there. I don't know if it's really the shot, but yeah. Well. Yeah,
I know a lot of people have said that this one has sort of had that effect, but definitely like the difference between the first and the second one was noticeable. So perhaps that was it. But I mean, definitely the takeaway is for anyone who's like fearful, don't be. It was real smooth. I unfortunately I do not have Magneto's superpowers like the conspiracy theorists promised. I was really, imagine complaining about that. I would love to be magnetic.
I'd love me some adamantium claws myself.
Exactly. I mean, come on.
Great for scratching your ass and stuff.
Imagine complaining about a little magnetism. No, I can't imagine. What's funny too is like a lot of those conspiracy theorists were using like keys and stuff, and apparently the metal alloy in keys is so weak that keys are not magnetic. So they were just exposing that they were dirty and it's kind of sticky, which is sort of hilarious. But anyway, let's dig into what we're all here for, which is of course Besiktas, and there's a lot of actual news to talk about, although really not that much concrete stuff. And I think what we're here for and what our fans are going to be excited to hear your takes on are regarding the review of what ended up being a fantastic season, huh, Kaan? Who would have thought going into it that would be the case? Certainly not us.
No. I mean, we had a pretty good renaissance under Sergen after he took over from Abdullah Avci the previous season. So I think we were all hopeful that we would see good football at least, because I think that was the main,
right?
Yeah, I think the main takeaway
not championship football.
No, exactly. Like the main takeaway for me at least was Sergen is able to do something with limited material, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I did not expect us to really vie for the championship simply because, Burak Yilmaz left, of course. Caner, Gökhan, a bunch of players left.
And in a context where it's not like we were going to like immediately replace them with, talent as far as we could tell.
Yeah, and we got a lot of like unknowns in. Like I think Valentin Rosier was very much a question mark for most people, including myself. Rachid Ghezal, I mean, obviously a little bit more known. He played for Lyon when we played them. Played for Monaco, played of course for a little bit for Leicester, and will get loaned out I think to Fiorentina and Roma and stuff. But like I think most of us will remember him from his time at Lyon or Monaco.
Yeah, did he score a penalty against us?
He did in the penalty shootout, but he had actually never taken a penalty during a normal run of play. Like
until
Yeah, so like the 3 penalties he scored this season for us were his 3 first penalties ever in his professional career, not counting penalty shootouts.
I actually I gave you a shout out because you had said that in the group chat, and I repeated it already here. So,
okay.
you've been on the podcast somehow.
So I mean, like I think a lot of question marks for us. We got, of course, with Joseph de Souza, we got somebody in that we knew already from his time at Fenerbahce, but I think, at least for me, it was very much a question whether he would be able to reattain or be as good as he was at Fenerbahce. And even at Fenerbahce, I mean, personally, I never thought too highly of him, but of course it might have been a little bit of how you tend to look at rival players, like you try to look at their shortcomings rather than their qualities, and when you're looking at your own players, you're doing the reverse basically.
Of course.
So
like my analysis of Joseph at the beginning of the season, while we're here, was that I had hated him enough as a Fener player that I thought it was a good sign, because like I couldn't remember him doing anything dirty, like a Melo type, where I was like, oh, I know why I hate him, or even like a Burak, right? So I was like, I don't know why I hate him so much.
Already?
Yeah, right. But I was like, I don't know why I hate him so much, but because like I couldn't think of something he had done. That actually made me think, all right, maybe it's because he was like annoying in a good way, So I was a little hopeful, but no, you're absolutely right.
I mean, he was one of those players that would enable his team to dominate midfield. I think, and I it's definitely something that we lacked, and definitely something he added this season. But like in large, still for a large part, and especially also with the way we started the season, quite negatively. With I think we won the first game away at Trabzon, but then we lost against Geçtireberli at home, and I think we lost like 3 games or something in the first 5 or something like that, and it was a real bad start. But then, of course, those late transfers started to come in with Abubakar, with Souza, with Gezal, with Rosier, and those guys, I would say, and Wellington too.
Saved us.
But but especially I think
Gezal, you know what? I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna get not. I'm gonna be received poorly probably, but Nsakala too. Why not? Honestly, especially when you look at how he contributed late in the season, he was probably our most steady defender for a minute.
If you look at the amount of games he played, like you can't discredit his importance this season. Like, was he a weak link? I think in certain stretch of games he definitely was. Towards the, I liked him for the majority of the season. Like, people were criticizing him quite heavily even early on, but I liked him early on. It was just the last stretch of games where I felt he cost us a couple of goals.
Remember in the very end he was solid. He had like right before the end. Remember he had like a couple like man of the match performances like coming into the last few rounds, I think, right? He was like very up and down.
He had a really good stretch of form, but then he had a couple of games towards the end of the season where we dropped points that really got us into trouble, really, where he lifted the offside trap like 2 or 3 times.
He was the fatigue factor, right? We were commenting on that a lot. He seemed to always fade out like by around the 60th minute and then get us into trouble around the 70th or 80th.
Maybe I don't remember exactly which games it were. I don't think it was the Ankara-Gücü game. It was which games that we dropped points in towards the end. I mean, definitely the Fatih Karagümrük game. I think he let either Endao or Borini onside. So he definitely had some butter on his head there, as we would say here in Belgium.
I've never heard that one. That's
to say here, when you're kind of responsible for something, like for conceding a goal or something, we say he's got butter on his head there. So he definitely did have some butter on his head.
I've heard butterfingers, but yeah, that's...
But he also, let's not forget, he also scored the 4th goal against Fenerbahce away. He also gave a really good assist against Trabzonspor, but that was a match we ended up losing, so I guess that doesn't really matter all that much. But like at the end of the day, it's not like he didn't contribute. But the main factors transfer-wise for our success this season definitely were at one for me, like Gezal by a mile, the man of the season. Abubakar was vying for that title until he basically stopped. Disappeared from the squad basically for the last 10 games because he basically Yeah, in the first 25 or so matches he played, he scored 15 goals, gave us a couple of assists as well. He was really important. The side was very instrumental in the Fenerbahce away derby as well, and he played some really big games. But obviously he faded. So he was important up until the crucial ending of the season. Souza obviously had a great season,
and I guess we'll put a placeholder on Abubakar. Obviously, we'll have to come back to that subject later.
But I don't think we can underestimate the contribution of Kyle Larin either, despite the fact that I do think that he was very much a product of the team doing so well. Because for me, Ghezal, Abubakar, Souza, like these guys really stood out above the rest, like individually. I don't think Larin ever did. Like Larin was very much the product of the team performing. But as well, Larin maybe not scoring in those last couple of weeks, but let's not forget he did win that penalty against Göztepe, and he also gave that really good assist to Ghezal against Fatih Karagümrük, which at the time I thought this game was going terrible and we were going to lose it, and we did end up losing it, but he did give us some hope there again. But yeah, unfortunately,
that ability, which I really feel Sergen must have activated because it was such a problem, but his ability to use his body and hold the ball, like actually play with his back to the goal, was improved over previous seasons, I thought. And so
he definitely did that. He definitely improved that greatly in Belgium. I think the main thing Sergen did was instill confidence in him and utilize him well, recognize his weaknesses as a player.
Finding that his role on the wing, I mean, it's night and day, right? Like, as a winger, I mean, even like, really we could actually use, like, cause like with talk of he supposedly, I guess this is a sort of spoiler, but we probably won't really talk about it anyway. Supposedly he's stated he wants to stay with us. I don't know if you've heard this, but because of how effective he was on the wing, I've actually sort of convinced myself that if we were to get a good enough striker to make sure that he's not ever relied on for that, I'm okay with it, honestly. I'll take it, like, especially like with Nkudu being kind of injury prone and not entirely reliable. I feel like having those two to play off each other wouldn't be the worst thing. Obviously, I'd much rather cash in on Larin now because I don't think his value will ever be higher. But I mean, again, like another season on the wing, I wouldn't hate it, you know.
Yeah, for me, I really, really, really hope, and I would almost say insist, that we sell him. I think, like you said, this is the time. There's also talk of us maybe even extending his contract just to make sure that we can actually ask a good price for him, because obviously he's going to go into his last contract year now, which would impact our ability to ask the big price. So let's say if he extends, then you can maybe ask 3-4 million more. And I think realistically you can get 10 million for him right now, given I think his equity is pretty high at the moment. He's also doing well for the Canadian national team.
Sure is, so I mentioned previously, he scored what actually amounted to
6 in the last
incredibly
7, right?
important goal. So CONCACAF is weird. There's like a pre-round to get to the last round of qualifiers, and so they had to beat Haiti in a 2-legged series, and you'd think they would do well in that, but it's Canada. You know, they're not, at least historically, they're not that much better than Haiti. But you know, nowadays, obviously with Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David over at Lille and stuff like that, like they have a lot more value going forward anyway. And yeah, it was actually Kyle Larin who scored the only goal in the first leg. So it ended up being huge. It was
I think he scored in the second leg as well, didn't he?
And he scored, I mean, they actually kind of dominated
won
the second
1-0 there, didn't they, or something?
The first one they won 1-0, so it was his goal alone that sealed it. And then the second one they won, I think 3-1 or something. So it was a little easier for them. Yeah.
But he's been on fire for club and country this year, for sure. Like 19 goals in the league for us, then a couple of more in Europe and in the Cup, I think. You know, he's had that goal against PAOK, right? And I think he did, right? And then I think he scored like 23 goals for us this season total. And then he he got a bunch of goals for Canada as well. So I mean, he's obviously doing great, and I'm on the record for saying I don't rate him particularly high as a purely when it comes to his. It's difficult to put this in words, really. Like, football, technically, I don't think he's the biggest talent. No. But I'm very happy. He's definitely proven me wrong. I think I've gone on the record and saying that I don't think he's Besiktas material, and I don't think he could handle the level. And I think he very much proved me and a lot of other people wrong this season. I'm very happy for that, and I'm happy for him as well, because he's worked really hard. He went out on loan. He could have stayed at Besiktas. He could have stayed just to cash in his paycheck, but he went out and he worked on himself, worked on improving himself. And then, of course, when he came back now, Sergen saw something in him as well. But still, it's up to Laren to step up, and he did. He didn't always deliver, especially when we had to play him as a striker. But
yeah. And that was like later on, obviously.
Yeah, but
although Hatayspor, he was our striker.
Yeah, true.
And I'll never forget what he scored. I think his third goal of that match, and Abubakar, he did this like whoa, like he waved his hands like it's this guy's hot, he's on fire type thing, and I remember thinking like, I hope Abubakar isn't. Like, on the one hand, feeling like, maybe we don't need him, you know what I mean? Or on the other hand, like, jealous, you know? But he actually seemed, at the time, I was like, he seems really into it. So I thought of it as a really positive thing. Like, he's even supporting his competition for the spot. Which obviously, like, between the two of them, it would have been no competition, but whatever.
But at the end of the day, Laren stepped up. He played a fantastic season. He played a big part in the championship. I don't think anywhere near as big as Rashid Ghezal did. Maybe not even as big as Abubakar, although I think Laren's consistency throughout the season probably puts him in that conversation.
Look, let's put it this way. The MVP is between Ghezal, Joseph, probably, Abubakar, and then I think probably a fourth would be Laren. Ghezal is so, like, he stands, I think, sort of shoulders above the others, Yeah,
I don't think there's any conversation. I don't think they're, like, I think Ghezal has no competition in that. Like, the way he stepped up,
nobody,
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I've seen people liken it a little bit to Mario Gomez, and of course it's a very different type. Like, Ghezal's more an assistant, a creator, not really a goal scorer. But the way
until the end, apparently.
He ended up scoring 8 goals and some really important ones. Oof. But at the end of the day, he was the creator. I mean, he had 17 assists in the league, 1 in the cup final. I think that's something we tend to gloss over, but we won the freaking double. We didn't just win the league, we won the double as well. And in a season where I don't think anyone realistically expected us to win trophies, maybe the cup, because the cup sometimes gets treated a little bit disrespectfully in Turkey, which I think is unfortunate, because I'm a big fan of cup football, especially if you look at other countries. The cup means something.
I like that the only kind of guaranteed Europa League spot, group stage spot is via the cup. Honestly, I think the more prominence you can give these tournaments, the better. As a basketball guy, I love playoffs, like the knockout round type stuff. As a football guy, I love that you have like a league table to sort of counter that with, which obviously would be better in basketball sometimes. But I also, I love that you get like the best of both worlds. And I think when you diminish the cup, you're taking away from that, actually. So, I'm with you there.
And I don't really understand, because in other countries the cup gets treated a lot more seriously, a lot more respect. I don't know why in Turkey it kind of gets diminished a little bit. It's disparaged even. It's unfortunate, because cup football is great. It's sometimes in Turkey not as often, but you have these super fun fixtures between the third division team and the first division team, and the third division team going through and stuff like that. And you do have those fixtures early on, but like sometimes you have those encounters in the semifinals and stuff like that, which makes it.
Well, let's not forget, right? Like we got experience. Like we were ready to play Erzurum this year because we'd previously faced them in the cup. Remember? So like we benefited. We've gotten experience against sides via the cup, right?
Well, it happened more often this season to several teams. I think Alanya and Antalya had the same thing. They played each other in the league around exactly the same time that they played each other in the cup. And usually what you see in those types of situations is that in the league it goes one way and then in the cup it goes the other. Fortunately...
when we played Başakşehir back-to-back like that, was it?
Yeah.
We beat them both times?
Yeah, we beat them both times, yeah. Like, we were kind of the exception to the rule, so to speak.
Well, that's not a real club, is it? I'm kidding. that was harsh. Especially after this year, I shouldn't be picking on their, 8 fans, but whatever.
Pick away, man. Pick away.
I love the cup. No, I'm a big cup guy, too. I love...
Me too.
The mystique of those early rounds where you can face some of these.
I love the Europa League as well, and I'm sure I'm gonna love the Conference League too. Like I do tend to gravitate.
Intertoto. I used to love the Intertoto. Well, although I didn't understand it entirely.
Yeah, I mean, nobody still does. Like the Intertoto Cup is something really special. Like you have multiple little finals, and then you ended up being in the UEFA Cup or something.
Yeah,
right?
There was at the end, it would end there's the final 4. They made the semifinals, and then it's like, nope, actually we're done. They're all going, no problem. I was like, wait, what? We don't even get a winner in the end. So cup winner.
The way that they structure the Europa League now with basically cup winners getting the direct spots, it's kind of like the Europa League is now the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. I really do.
Yeah.
No, and I think it absolutely underscores our success this year that we got the double. Because that's typically the mark of not just a good year, but some of your better years, right? When you can claim the double over your rivals. I mean, and so for us to have done it this year, and I've said this on numerous occasions throughout the season, but this for me will always be one of my favorite seasons, just because of how we did this, because of the fact that it was Sergen to kind of pull everyone together, like our kind of prodigal son, if you will, right? But on top of that he did it in a way where we followed FFP rules, and not only quote unquote followed, but did some slick maneuvers like our rivals tend to do and broke some rules. But we literally made progress. We cut our wages by a significant amount. I forget exactly how much now, but we really did the job, right? We did the job in a sort of reasonable, responsible sense financially, but then also somehow, and obviously this has to go to Sergen, but then also to a huge shout out to the French crew on our team, right? That camaraderie between them and the friendliness and the smiles, Abubakar, Rosier, Nkudu, and Sakala, that little crew, even Mensa, they radiated positivity, and it seemed to spread throughout the club. Again, though, I really think Sergen must have played a pivotal role. But
I think that's where you also see the difference between us and Galatasaray and Fenerbahce is that Beşiktaş was, and the players said this throughout the season, we're more than just teammates. Yeah. And that's something Sergen got into it, but also you need to have the right characters in the team. And I think guys like Ensakala, I think his importance in the squad is underestimated. Ensakala, Nkudu, Abubakar, unfortunately now in hindsight. Those guys. It's funny
you mentioned Ensakala. And Sakala was always one of those guys that was always very quick to apologize when he'd have a bad day. Did you notice that? And I think for all the crap people gave him, it goes a long way when someone sort of puts their hand up and says, look, that was on me, my bad. But I promise next time we're going to come out even harder, And
I think a guy like Ensakala realizes that he is very lucky to play at a club as Beşiktaş. I think he doesn't really have an ego. I don't think he thinks he can do better. Yeah. So I think he's very self-aware. And if he plays a bad game, I think he takes responsibility because of that. I would imagine that players who think they have a higher ceiling might not be as quick to recognize their
Of course, right, yeah. Or at least they maybe try to minimize a bad day, right? But
or just
I appreciated that humility. I appreciated that kind of transparency, right? Like that goes a long way in Turkey, especially these days.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that he's one of my favorite players because I mean he's not. But
I'm getting his kit this year. No, I'm kidding.
Don't do that. You know what happens if you do.
I know he's gone.
You're not allowed to get any more kits with names on them that like get like who do we want? Get a Juven Yalchin shirt or something.
Oh man, I don't know if I want that. that's
new Mustafa Pektemik on.
I don't know if you heard. Sergen gave him a shout. Like he said that would be one of his new projects. I don't even know if Sergen can fix that guy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Who knows? Like the difference is that for me, like Laren went and did well abroad.
Yeah.
Juven went and basically did nothing.
He played like 7 times.
I mean, I didn't really expect him to. Like, I think going to Serie A, to Lecce, that was a tall order. I think he would have been better off going to a smaller league. But even still, like, I don't know. Juven, we saw some glimpses of talent, but I've also seen so much bad stuff from him. It's difficult sometimes because confidence plays such a big role in how a footballer performs that it's hard to judge really. Like, I mean, look at Laren, right?
Yeah.
So I would not write him off completely, but he's not as long as he's not our main plan or even our contingency plan, then I'm fine with it. Like if Sergen just wants to like try him out in the training camp and give him a couple of games at the start of the season, sure, why not?
Maybe the friendlies, let's see if he brings any energy. No, and I think one thing that was exposed last season, as far as poor management goes, and this is not of the Sergen variety, but of the general manager variety, rather, we clearly lacked a bit of depth, especially later in the season. And of course, who could have predicted? I mean, that was the first 40-match season we've ever experienced. So,
a lot of people predicted it, but I think that's a little unfair because we got an insane amount of injuries at the exact same time, almost like that. The injury wave we had towards the end of the season, I that was unseen. I've never ever seen that before. Galatasaray throughout the season had their fair share of injuries, but they didn't all clump up together like that. And it's much better when it's spread out and you can compensate it with alternatives. We basically, at the end of the season, like we were playing with Gökhan Töre and Nkudu, who were both injured, and they were and they had to play because there was nobody else. So both of them played with minor injuries, and like especially Gökhan, I think sacrificed his well-being for the good of the club, and the good of the team by doing that.
Those three, and I think this is something I've not talked about on the podcast, and you're just sort of refreshing my memory regarding, but Nkudu, Laren, and Töre all sacrificed so much in that last stretch in terms of playing injured.
Yeah,
and like Töre like literally sacrificed like maybe a couple years at the end of his career even, but like Nkudu too, considering how injured he often is, for him to play injured, that was huge. And of course Kyle Laren, I think everybody.
Laren as well. He also picked up a knock, and he also still played. He had that ice that was like.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he played with it. That's right. With like a, and then he came back the next week because we needed him, right? So he was playing with the ability for someone to smash his head open.
Yeah, exactly. So like those guys, Nkudu's like when he missed that penalty, he got a lot of shit. But at the end of the day, because he, remember he missed that penalty against Ankaragücü in the second minute or something, and he laughed. Mm-hmm. People see that as he doesn't care, but that's not because he doesn't care.
I'm an uncomfortable laugher too. I have to stand up for him. I always laugh when I'm uncomfortable.
I don't even know if it's an uncomfortable laugh. It's more like, oh my god, I can't believe it.
How did I do it so badly?
Oh my, it's not a laugh of not caring.
No way.
It's a laugh of.
Oh my god!
Being annoyed at yourself.
How could I have done that? No, I do that. I do that.
Exactly.
I really
and the thing is, like, I think he, even if it wasn't, like, I think he went out and proved that he definitely did care and he did want to give it his all. And Nkudu, at different times in the season, I thought he might have not been as motivated. But if you look back at the greater scheme of things, like not just this final stretch of games, let's not forget Nkudu gave the assist to the 4-2 against Fenerbahce that ended up ultimately being the winner. And he also scored the 2-0 against Galatasaray in injury time. If it wasn't for that goal, we would not have won the league. And Nkudu's he's nowhere near a Gezal, even a Laren, in terms of contributing to the title, but he had his share of this championship for sure.
No
and at the end of the day, if you look at how the season shaped out, every single player that scored had his part in the championship. Even Tyler Boyd,
every goal, exactly.
Even Jermaine Lens, who scored in the opening games. Like, those guys all played a part. They all, contributed to this.
Dude, you know what? Let's extend it even further. Think of all, especially late in the season. I'm gonna sort of especially highlight Wellington, but think of those guys who saved goals, making diving saves, to keep scores down a little, or you know what I mean, when we were still tied and they'd prevent them from taking the lead. I think of Wellington making 3, racing back and making us cutting out an opponent who was one-on-one with the keeper type thing, and those are also almost as impactful as goals when you look at the goal differential that we won by, right? There are so many key performers and performances now that you go back. I don't think we should really spend any time with the negativity and sort of focusing on low lights of the season or anything like that, because honestly, as you're mentioning it, I mean, anybody who's critical of Nkudu, to go back to who you were talking about, has to recall how badly, when we were struggling at the end of the season just to put out 11 guys, he was one of those guys that we felt like we absolutely needed, right? So I think that speaks enough to kind of his capacity or potential with us on the club.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like when you're in a pinch and when push came to shove and it's oh my god, we need 11 guys, especially Nkudu, right? Because we felt his pace, and we need someone on the wing who's got some technique. Just to see it in that context, suddenly his value, I think, gets brought into light, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you look at the grand scheme of things, from all our outfield players, I think only Montero didn't score. Everyone else scored a goal. Rosier scored, Ridvan scored, and Sakala scored. Vida scored multiple goals. Wellington scored. Atiba scored. Souza scored. Laic scored. Ozhan scored. Lenz scored. Boyd scored. Guven scored.
Did Montero not score at the end? I thought he might have.
Montero's the only one who didn't score, and of course the goalkeepers. And I'm not counting youth players that didn't play or played maybe a minute or something. I'm not.
Kaida, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think those guys played to begin with. But everyone else scored at least one goal, and I think that also shows the strength of the team. And Cenk Tosun gave an interview post-season, obviously, given his injury and his future and about the season and stuff. And he said, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. He said, if it wasn't for me and Aboubakar being injured, for us being basically without a striker, because Laren had to play there, but Laren's more of a left, striker coming from the left.
Yeah.
Ram
Dutta or whatever it's called.
Cenk literally said that, Laren is best coming from the wing, and he feels most comfortable there. If it wasn't for Aboubakar or myself being injured, I think we would have lifted the trophy 3-4 weeks before the end of the season. And I 100% agree with him on that. I think anyone who looked at Beşiktaş this season and isn't completely biased about their love for Galatasaray or whatever, I think they would say the same thing.
Well, folks, as you could probably tell, Kaan and I were very glad to be reunited on air, but so we dragged on for quite a long time. Almost 3 hours of conversation, pre-editing. But so yeah, obviously too much for one episode. So what I've decided to do is actually trim the whole thing down and show it to you folks, our loyal listeners, in 3 episodes. But so yeah, stay tuned for part 2 of our season review. Kaan and I keep talking. We go on to talk about a number of things, conspiracy theories that our rivals have brought up against us. Just more talk of triumphs. We talk a little bit about the Euros. We have a nice long conversation about football in general. Obviously, our transfer window. Abubakar, right? So yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I think we cover every base. I think we're pretty thorough in our conversation. But so yeah, stay tuned for more. In the off season, I thought it'd be nice to spread this thing out, but I won't wait a whole week to release the other parts because I already have them ready to go. But so yeah, in a few more days, I'll release the second part, and a few days after that, the third part. With that said, I don't want to give transfer news short shrift here. There's a lot coming in. So I had everyone's favorite, second favorite? You can decide. I don't want to. I'll stop saying that. But Evran, the Aquaman himself, dropped transfer news for us, and his opinions on the latest and how realistic they are. But so yeah, I will include that here, and then I'll wrap up this episode until next week.
All right. So I know Kaan and Sinan had a long conversation, but I'm here to give you guys a quick little transfer roundup with Sergen finally signing the contract, 1-year extension. A bit of a worrying delay, but he's staying. There's reported that we're gonna sign at least 7 players this summer. Salyu Chan is supposedly done. Probably was just waiting for that whole Sergen thing. And then they said they have an agreement in principle, which obviously I've spoken on before on the podcast. I'm a very big supporter of him as a player, and I've wanted him for a couple of years now, so I'm happy he's at the club. And I think he fills a role that we need, which is that that he's kind of like, he's not quite a 10, but in this 4-1-4-1 that we play, I think that Atiba role as like an 8 that can also defend a little bit is going to be very important for us, especially as Atiba's like 38 years next year. So Kenan Karaman's another one that's reportedly, unfortunately in my opinion, close to being finished. He's a free agent, so he's Turkish national. He won't take a foreigner spot, which is good. I just hope the salary is low, but I think he's going to be a little bit overpaid. A little bit like the Turkish Laren, I guess you could say. But he's not quite as big of a fellow. Not my cup of tea. I've never been a fan. He's never scored 10 league goals in his life. Scored 7 in the second division of Germany, second Bundesliga last year. I think he's an average player. Don't think he's Besiktas level, but maybe I'll be wrong. And then I think we're supposed to bring in one, big name striker from what the reports are. So Diego Costa is a free agent, and I think it's a weird one. I think I'm hearing like 2 million euros is kind of like the salary that's the number being thrown around. I'm not really a big supporter of these type of transfers, but if the salary is reasonable enough, and he's in good shape because he hasn't played in a while. I think he's been out of contract for 6 months, and he hasn't been in good form for maybe 2 or 3 years. But he used to be a 60 million, 70 million euro player, so we'll see about that. Mitrovic, I think, is another name, but I think it's less realistic. Obviously, I understand they say Sergen wants him. Of course, Sergen can also want Messi, but Mitrovic is on like a 4-year deal with Fulham. They just got relegated, so while they'll be likely to want him to leave because he has a high salary for a championship team, there's going to be a lot of suitors. He's a big boy. He's aggressive. It's not like an under the radar player. He's not going to go for a free loan. If anyone's going to loan him, it's going to be full salary and then a loan fee. If not, a team just outright willing to buy him, which we obviously can't afford. So I would not put any belief in that happening unless it's like at the end of the window and they can't seem to get rid of him. I don't think it's a transfer will get done quickly. Because we still haven't even locked down Gezal or Rosier, so if we had money to spend like that, we would have been spending it. And then my boy, he's still a little bit in the news, Alex Teixeira. Done with his Chinese money-making days. If I had to pick a star transfer, I said that's who I would pick. I don't know. It depends what Sergen wants. For me, it's like, he can play as a false 9, as a 10, or as a left wing. Like, he can play as in several functions, really talented player. That'd be my pick for, if we're going to dish out $2.5 million on a player. That'd be my pick. But again, he's going to have interests. And, we missed out on Hulk in the winter. It's not a transfer I'm confident of getting done. We missed out on Abubakar. I don't think Amit Nurchebe is really, dishing out the money like Orman was. And then Kaan Ayhan is another player that's been linked, I think, Gala and Trabzon and us. I've always liked him. This Euros wasn't, maybe the best look for him, but it's not his fault. The national team was kind of in shambles. He's not really a defensive mid, but he can play there. He can also play right back, and he's a pretty decent center back most of the time. He's not the same level as Çağlar, Meri, or Ozan, but those players are way out of our price range. If it can happen and the price is reasonable, especially on a loan, I'd be for it, for depth and competition. But again, I think, Trabzon's spending so much money, it seems like it'll be down to if they actually want him or not. So that's like kind of the rundown of the initial transfers. I think we'll see a lot of movement starting soon because, we lost Abu, so he has to be replaced. Kenan's coming in, but he's more of like a Cenk Tosun replacement. Not really an Abubakar replacement. So we need a star striker. Gezal hasn't come back. Rosier hasn't come back. So those are 2 transfers up in the air. And then I think another left wing. We're not sure if Vida has offers. Lajec has offers. So we'll see what's going on. But so far, I would say Salih and Kenan look next 2 weeks. After that, we'll see. So I'll try not to take up too much of your time, because I'm sure Kaan's gone on for a while. So that's the end of the roundup.
All right. Thank you so much, Evran. Thank you so much, Kaan. Great to be back with you folks. We will be back more regularly starting now. We got our little vacation out of the way, I suppose. But so yeah, obviously with Sergen re-signing, there will be hopefully some transfer news incoming. More and more, with more and more frequency, at least you hope. Considering we've had none thus far officially, but there's supposedly a lot going on in the pipe works, and a lot right around the corner. So we will be back. Of course, we'll be back very soon with our follow-up parts 2 and 3 to the conversation I had with Kaan. And Evran will keep tossing us some bombas afterwards. And of course, I hope to keep having some fun guests throughout the summer. Talk about the previous season, this current off season, perhaps even our upcoming season. But so yeah, it should be a fun off season for us here at the Black Eagles podcast. Stay tuned for more. We will be back in a couple days with part 2 of my episode of my interview with Kaan. And who knows? Maybe there will be some official transfer news in the works too. You never know. So yeah, do stay tuned. Do come back and hang out with us again in the near future. Of course, Follow us on Twitter. Follow our guest, Kaan, at Razerian, Razzerian. Follow myself at Sir_Writes_a_lot. Follow the podcast at Eagles_podcast, etc., etc., etc. Follow us on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast, one word. And of course, as always, because I would be remiss not to mention, let's go Basic Trash! Peace out, everyone. Hopefully, news about preseason schedule, transfers, all kinds of good stuff. Hopefully, I just saw that we won a lawsuit. I don't know if we were being sued or if we were suing someone. So yeah, perhaps we'll have more info on that in the next episode. Anyway, do stay tuned, and we will be back shortly. I promise this time. I always keep my word, folks. See you next time, folks.
Besiktas International hopes you enjoyed this program.